The story of Downton Abbey is not just about an old estate. It's about a family standing at the edge of a world that's changing faster than they can hold on. As the sun rises over the grand mansion one last time, a quiet fear moves through its halls, because the life they've loved for generations is about to face its greatest test yet. A soft morning fog rests over the lawns of Downton Abbey. The great house stands tall as always. But something feels different now, like history itself is waiting for a final chapter to be written. It is the late 1930s, and even though the world is still calm on the surface, a storm is slowly gathering across Europe. Wars, new politics, new machines, everything is changing, and the Crawley family can sense it. They know the world they grew up in may not survive the next few years. Inside the estate, the day begins quietly. Servants move through the corridors with practiced grace in straightening gowns. Mrs. Hughes checking rooms, and Carson, older and slower now, watching everything with pride and worry. Even he can feel the weight of time pressing down on Downton. The estate is no longer the powerful symbol it once was. The cost of maintaining it grows heavier every year, and the world no longer looks to old families for leadership. But Downton, stubborn and proud, continues to stand. Upstairs, the Crawley family gathers for breakfast. Lady Mary sits at the head of the table, confident as always, but her eyes reveal the burden she carries. She knows she must protect Downton now that so much responsibility falls on her shoulders. Her father, Robert, tries to hide his growing fear that he may be the last true guardian of their legacy. Cora watches him with quiet concern, wishing she could ease the pressure on him. Meanwhile, Edith rushes in, elegant yet distracted, her mind full of deadlines, stories, and the demanding world of publishing. Tom Branson enters last. Carrying the mixed identity he has worn for years, an Irishman with modern ideas living in a British aristocratic world. He can see that Downton is struggling, and he wonders if change is the only way to save it. Together, they share polite conversation. But beneath their calm voices lies a single, unspoken question. How much longer can Downton survive? Outside, the fog begins to lift, revealing the long driveway stretching toward the future. The Crawleys and their staff stand at the edge of a new era. None of them know it yet. But a letter on its way to the estate will soon set everything in motion. A message that will challenge the family, shake the foundations of Downton, force them to choose between tradition and survival. A cold wind sweeps across the open fields surrounding Downton, carrying with it the first signs of trouble. Inside the library, Lord Robert Crawley stands alone, reading a document that makes his hands tremble ever so slightly. It is a report: numbers, costs, rising taxes, and warnings from advisors. Downton's finances, already fragile, are slipping again. The estate needs repairs. Staff wages are climbing. The world is moving toward cheaper, faster, more modern ways of living. Robert has protected Downton all his life, but now he feels something he has never felt before: the fear of failure. Mary enters quietly and sees the strain in her father's eyes. She has grown stronger over the years, sharper, bolder, ready to challenge anyone who threatens the family. But as she looks at the papers spread across the desk, even she understands this is no minor problem. Downton is bleeding money. If they don't act soon, the estate could collapse under its own weight. Mary offers solutions: cutting costs, renting more land, investing in modern business. But Robert shakes his head. To him, each change feels like peeling away a piece of the estate's soul. Meanwhile, upstairs, Edith faces a different pressure. Her newspaper is reaching new heights, bringing her praise, responsibility, and an overwhelming schedule. Her husband supports her, but Edith feels torn between her career and the life she left behind at Downton. Each time she reads letters from London, she wonders if she is living two lives and whether either of them truly fits her anymore. In the sitting room, Cora gathers the family to discuss an upcoming charity event. She smiles warmly. But beneath her grace is the growing worry that the family is drifting apart under the weight of their own problems. She longs for unity, for the closeness they once had. But every conversation now seems to end with fear about the estate's future. Tom Branson returns from a business trip, bringing news of new industries rising across the country: automobiles, factories, modern homes, and new classes of people who no longer depend on the old aristocracy. Tom understands the modern world far better than the others, yet he too feels caught between loyalty to Downton and the reality of what's coming. He warns Mary that if they don't evolve, they will be swept away like so many estates already lost. As the family gathers for another tense meeting, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. Downton Abbey, the home that has defined generations of Crawleys, is standing on a fragile edge. One wrong decision could bring the entire legacy crashing down. Each member of the family carries a different weight, a different fear, and a different hope for what Downton should become. Change is coming, whether they like it or not, and soon. A message from the outside world will force them to face choices they've spent years avoiding, choices that could either save their home or end their story forever. The afternoon begins peacefully, with sunlight touching the stone walls of Downton Abbey like a gentle reminder of better days. But peace breaks the moment the postman's bicycle rolls to a stop at the front gate. He carries a single envelope, plain, official, and heavy with importance. What looks like an ordinary letter will soon become the spark that shakes the entire estate. Inside, the servants move through their usual routines when Mr. Bates notices the envelope among the day's post. It is addressed not to Robert or Mary, but to the Crawley family, as a whole, a rare and unsettling detail. Anna exchanges a cautious look with him. Letters like these do not bring cheerful news. They bring change. The envelope is placed on the silver tray and carried upstairs with quiet respect, as if everyone who touches it can sense the weight of its contents. When Mary picks it up, her fingers pause. For a moment, she simply stares at the seal, feeling a strange pressure rise in her chest. She calls for her father, for Tom, for Edith, everyone she believes should hear whatever message lies inside. The family gathers in the drawing room, the air thick with unease. Robert opens the letter slowly, as though hoping time might stall long enough for the news to vanish. But the words hit him harder than anyone expected. A distant relative, one with partial legal ties to the property, has passed away, leaving behind a will filled with complications. There are claims, disputes, and decisions that could force the Crawleys to either pay a massive sum or risk losing control over parts of the estate. Shock settles over the room. Cora presses her hand to her chest. Edith's eyes widen. Mary's jaw tightens. She can already see the storm forming. Even Tom, so often the voice of logic, feels the gravity of the situation. This isn't just a financial problem. It's a legal threat that could tear Downton apart from the inside. Suddenly, Downton feels smaller, fragile, like a great ship taking on water. Robert sinks into his chair, overwhelmed. He has survived scandals, wars, and shifting politics, but this letter carries a danger unlike any they've faced before. It challenges the ownership of the land itself, the very heart of their heritage. Downstairs, whispers begin. Rumors travel faster than footsteps. Carson, leaning on his cane, senses disaster before anyone tells him. In his fading strength, he prays silently for the estate he has given his life to, as night falls. The letter lies on the table like a silent warning. The Crawleys know that tomorrow will not be the same. A battle is coming, one that will test not only their wealth or titles, but their unity as a family. The morning after the letter arrives, Downton Abbey feels heavier than ever. Every room seems to echo with silent worry, as though the walls themselves understand the threat hanging over the estate. Mary wakes early, unable to rest. She walks through the halls with steady steps, but inside her heart is racing. She knows the family must act quickly. At every choice they face, feels it's like walking through a minefield. Robert sits in his study, staring at maps of the estate. Land boundaries, old agreements, historical rights papers spread before him like pieces of a puzzle he has never wanted to solve. His face is pale with exhaustion. The idea of losing even a piece of Downton wounds him more deeply than he can admit. This estate is not just property to him. It is his identity, his duty, and the last promise he must protect before his time ends. Cora enters quietly and places a gentle hand on his shoulder. She reminds him that the world outside their doors is changing, and they can no longer rely on tradition alone. But Robert fears change will erase everything the Crawleys have lived for. He whispers that maybe the world no longer has a place for families like theirs. Meanwhile, Edith returns to the drawing room with a folder full of documents from London. As a successful publisher, she understands legal pressure, public image, and the cost of mistakes. She tells the family that this dispute could easily become a scandal if handled poorly. Newspapers love stories about old families falling apart, and she refuses to let Downton become a headline. Tom, ever the realist, suggests bringing in modern advisors, lawyers, financial experts, people who understand the new systems that rule society. Downstairs, the tension filters through the staff. Mrs. Hughes tries to keep everyone calm, but even she feels uneasy. Carson, though weaker now, insists on standing in the main hall, ready to serve as if nothing is wrong. He believes that Downton's strength has always been its stability, and he refuses to let fear show on his face. Yet in private, his hands shake. The possibility of losing the estate is like losing the purpose of his entire life. Anna and Bates talk in hushed voices about what might come next. Would they have to leave? Would the cottages be sold? Would the estate break apart? They've survived hardships before, but this one feels bigger, like the foundation of their world is cracking. By late afternoon, Mary calls a family council. They gather around the long dining table, but the room feels colder than ever. She lays out the options with a firm voice. Negotiate with the relatives making the claim, sell parts of the land to raise money, or fight legally and risk everything. Each path comes with a price, and none guarantees safety. The conflict is no longer just about land or money. It is about identity, loyalty, and the future of everyone who calls Downton home. As the sun sets behind the estate, long shadows fall across the floor, stretching like dark fingers toward the people who now stand at the center of a rising storm. The Crawleys know the next choice they make will shape the fate of Downton forever. While the Crawleys struggle to make sense of their new crisis, life below stairs begins to shift in ways no one expected. The servants' quarters, usually full of bright chatter and steady work, now feel strangely quiet. Every footstep sounds heavier. Every whispered conversation ends with worried glances. The staff may not know every detail about the letter, but they understand enough. Something serious is threatening the estate, and their futures may be caught in the crossfire. Carson sits in his small office. The same room he once commanded with perfect order and sharp confidence. Now he leans forward, breathing slowly, trying to hide the tremble in his hands. He hates feeling weak. He hates feeling unsteady. Downton has been his whole life, and he believes deeply that a butler should remain firm no matter what storms blow outside. But as he listens to distant footsteps echoing through the halls, for the first time he wonders if he will live long enough to see how this crisis ends. He fears the estate will fall before he does. Mrs. Hughes notices the strain in him. She has always been the calm center of the staff, the one who balances kindness with strength. She gently tells Carson that he doesn't have to shoulder every burden alone. But Carson shakes his head. He believes loyalty means standing tall, even when the world tilts. Still, Mrs. Hughes watches him carefully. Knowing his pride could push him past his limits. In the servants' hall, Anna and Bates share a quiet moment as they prepare linens. They speak softly, afraid their fears might spill into the air and make everything worse. Anna worries about her child's future. What will happen if the estate breaks apart? Bates tries to reassure her, though even he does not fully believe his own words. For them, Downton is not just a workplace. It is home. It is safety. It is the place where they endured every hardship together. Losing it would feel like losing the most stable part of their lives. Daisy, always emotional and outspoken, can hardly contain her worry. She asks questions no one wants to hear. Will the kitchens be closed? Will they lose their jobs? Will families have to move away from the cottages? Andy tries to soothe her, but even he sounds unsure. They have dreams of building a future, maybe starting a family of their own. But dreams need solid ground, and right now that ground feels shaky in the kitchen. Mrs. Patmore pretends everything is normal. She barks orders, stirs pots, and scolds Daisy for chopping vegetables too slowly. But her eyes keep drifting to the window, toward the grand estate outside. She has watched Downton change through wars, marriages, and tragedies. Yet something about this moment feels different. As if the house itself is holding its breath. As evening falls, the staff gathers for supper. The room feels smaller than usual, the shadows longer. They eat quietly, each person lost in their own thoughts. They worry not just about losing their work, but losing their community, the bonds they have built, the memories they share, the sense of belonging that only Downton has ever given them. For the first time, the people downstairs feel just as vulnerable as the family upstairs, and deep down, they know this crisis will force everyone's servants and aristocrats alike to stand together or fall apart. The future of Downton Abbey no longer depends on titles or traditions. It depends on every soul who calls this place home. The next days at Downton feel like walking through a house built on cracking ice. Every conversation ends in worry. Every decision sparks debate. Every family member carries their own vision of what must be done. But the deeper they fall into the crisis, the clearer it becomes. They are no longer fighting the outside world. They are fighting each other. Mary stands firm at the center of it all. She believes the only way to save Downton is to adapt, even if adaptation feels painful. She pushes for legal action, new business ventures, and outside advisors. She speaks with sharp confidence, but inside she battles the fear that she might be making decisions too hard for the older generation to accept. Robert, however, sees things differently. He believes tradition is their strongest shield. The estate has survived because of dignity, heritage, and loyalty, not lawyers and modern ideas. Each time Mary proposes a bold move, he feels a part of their identity slipping away. The disagreement between father and daughter grows sharper by the hour, and their usually calm discussions turn into heated arguments behind closed doors. Tom Branson tries to bridge the gap, but even he becomes caught in the tension. His loyalty to Downton clashes with his modern mind. He suggests selling unused land to raise money, a practical solution, but one that feels like betrayal to Robert. Tom sees the world changing through industry and technology, but Downton seems trapped in a past that no longer exists. The more he tries to help, the more he realizes that his unique position, neither fully aristocrat nor fully outsider, makes. The others see him as both a risky ally and a needed voice of reality. Edith finds herself torn as well. She understands Mary's logic but sympathizes with Robert's fear. Her life in London has taught her how quickly old institutions can crumble. And she knows that even the greatest names are not safe from the world's shifting tides. But the idea of losing Downton, the childhood sanctuary that shaped her, hits her harder than she expected. She tries to keep peace, but her attempts often fall on deaf ears. Cora watches it all with a heavy heart. She sees her husband growing more fragile under the strain. She sees her daughters drifting back into old rivalries. She sees Tom drowning in the role of mediator. And she knows that if they cannot find unity, the estate will fall apart long before the legal battle even begins. The final blow comes during a stormy evening meeting. Voices rise, tempers break, and accusations spill out, Mary calling Robert stubborn, Robert calling Mary reckless, Tom calling for compromise, and Edith warning that delay will only make things worse. Their words echo through the hall like thunder. For a moment it feels as if the very walls tremble with the weight of their conflict. When the argument ends, no one feels victorious. They step into different corners of the house, isolated, exhausted, and uncertain. Downton, once a symbol of unshakable unity, now feels like a battlefield. Outside, the storm lashes the windows. Rain pouring like the estate itself is mourning what it has become, and as the family stands divided, one truth rises above all else. The greatest threat to Downton Abbey may not be the legal claim, the finances, or the changing world. Dawn breaks softly over the estate as if the sky itself is holding its breath. The storm has passed, but the weight of the family's conflict still hangs in the air. Downton Abbey stands in the golden morning light, quiet and dignified, waiting for the Crawleys to decide its fate. After days of division, fear, and sleepless nights, the family gathers one last time in the Great Hall. This is the moment everything has been leading toward the choice that will shape their legacy forever. Robert, who has carried the heart of the estate for decades, stands slowly from his chair. His voice is weaker than before, but filled with a sincere strength. He admits the truth he fought hardest to avoid. The world has changed, and Downton cannot survive on tradition alone. His eyes shine with emotion as he tells Mary, Tom, Edith, Cora, that he trusts them to build a future, even if it looks nothing like the past he once cherished. Mary steps forward. Her usual steel softens as she promises not to destroy Downton's spirit, but to protect it in a way that fits a new era. She reveals her plan not to sell the estate, not to surrender it to the government, but to transform Downton into a shared landmark. A place open to the public, supported by modern partnerships, where history can breathe rather than crumble. It will still be their home, but also a light for others to learn from. Tom supports her boldly, explaining how this new model could secure Downton for generations. Edith adds her voice, suggesting that her newspaper can run a story that frames the decision not as a sign of weakness, but as a powerful act of leadership. Old family guiding the country into a thoughtful modern age. Cora beams with pride, seeing her daughters finally united by something greater than their differences. The decision is made. It is not simple. It is not easy, but it is right. Downstairs, the staff gathers in suspense until Mary shares the news. Downton will stand not as a memory of the past, but as a living legacy. Relief fills the room. Carson's eyes glisten as he whispers that he can now retire in peace. Knowing the estate he loved will live on, Mrs. Hughes squeezes his arm gently. Grateful they will not face the nightmare of losing the home that shaped their lives. Weeks later, the transformation begins. Craftsmen repair old halls, scholars catalog archives, and visitors walk the grounds with wonder. Downton's grand rooms echo with new voices, new stories, and new life. The Crawleys stroll the gardens with quiet pride, no longer weighed down by fear, but lifted by hope. The estate, once in danger of fading into history, now becomes a bridge between eras. On a warm evening, the family hosts a final gathering of farewell to the old Downton and a welcome to the new. Soft music fills the ballroom as past and present blend in perfect harmony. Mary stands on the balcony watching lanterns glow across the lawn. Beside her, Robert places a hand over hers. He tells her she has done what he never could, save Downton by letting it change. As the camera pulls back, the mansion glows in the night strong, timeless, transformed.